The rain hammered the graveyard like God's own judgment, turning the fresh-dug earth into a slick trap that nearly swallowed my boots whole. I stood there, soaked to the bone, staring at the casket of a man I'd never met. Leo Hargrove, 68, lifelong bachelor, owner of that crumbling Victorian on Elm Street everyone whispered about. And then the lawyer's voice cut through the downpour, raspy over the umbrella crowd. Ezra Kane, the bequest is for you. Everything. I froze, my heart slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. Who the hell was I to this ghost? The mourners turned, eyes narrowing. His niece, that sharp-faced woman with the pearls, looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. I'd come here on a whim, crashing a dead man's send-off because the obituary promised free coffee and Danish after, and my pockets were as empty as my fridge back in the apartment that smelled like regret. That was 6 months ago, and now I'm unraveling the why of it all, thread by tangled thread, in a life I never asked to inherit. Leo Hargrove's funeral was the kind of small-town spectacle that happens in places like Willow Creek, Illinois, population 4,200, where the cornfields stretch like accusations under a bruised sky, and everyone knows your sins before you do. I'd washed up there 2 years prior, fleeing Chicago after my own implosion. A boyfriend who decided fidelity was optional. A job at the ad agency that chewed me up and spat me out for cultural misalignment, code for being the gay kid from the wrong side of the tracks. Willow Creek was supposed to be a pit stop. A gig slinging lattes at the diner, crashing on a cousin's lumpy couch, until it became my cage. I spotted the obituary in the Willow Creek Gazette that Tuesday morning, folded under my wiper like a summons. Leo Hargrove, beloved son of the soil, invites all to mourn at St. Mary's on Friday. Reception to follow. Beloved? The man had no family worth mentioning. No photos in the paper, just a line about his quiet contributions to the community. And the reception, free food in a town where $1 stretched like taffy. I told myself it was hunger driving me, not the ache in my chest that had been there since Jake's text. We need to talk. I'm seeing someone. But deep down, I knew it was the pull of other people's grief, of voyeuristic balm for my own. The church smelled of wax and wet wool, pews half full with locals who'd come more for the gossip than the gospel. I slipped into the back row, collar up, trying to blend. Father O'Malley droned about Leo's unwavering faith and gentle spirit. But the eulogy from the lawyer, Mr. Harlan, all jowls and cheap suit, painted a different picture. A farmer who'd lost his land to the banks in the 80s crash, rebuilt with odd jobs and a stubborn streak, never married, never fathered, but left a mark on Willow Creek like a scar you can't ignore. Leo believed in second chances, Harlan said, his voice cracking just enough to sell it. He gave them freely, without expectation. I shifted, uncomfortable, my mind wandering to the Danish I'd score later. That's when she caught my eye. Evelyn Hargrove, Leo's niece from Peoria, perched in the front like a hawk. Mid-40s, blonde bob, the kind of woman who lunches at country clubs and judges your shoes before your soul. She dabbed her eyes with a lace hanky, but there was no salt in those tears. It was all performance, a bid for the inheritance she clearly thought was hers by blood right. The graveside was worse. The rain turned the procession into a farce. Umbrellas clashing, mud sucking at heels. I hung back, regretting the impulse, until Harlan sidled up, his breath fogging the chill air. Ezra Kane, he'd said, peering at a soggy list. I nodded, numb, as he thrust a card into my palm. Hargrove Estate. Contact immediately. Then the bombshell murmured like contraband. The will, the house, the savings, modest, but enough to choke on. $240,000, proceeds from that Victorian he'd clung to like a life raft. And a letter, sealed, for me alone. I laughed, a bark that echoed off the headstones. You've got the wrong guy. I didn't know him, but Harlan's eyes were grave. He knew you, son. Read the letter. It'll explain. The reception was in the church basement, folding tables groaning under jello salads and ham sliders. I bolted after one watery coffee, the letter burning a hole in my jacket. Back in my cousin's spare room, walls thin as promises, bed sagging like my resolve. I tore it open. Leo's script was elegant, looping. The ink faded but firm. Ezra, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're wondering why a stranger's dragging you into his mess. We met once, 15 years back, on a Greyhound from Chicago to St. Louis. You were 19, all fire and hurt, running from a foster home that broke you more than it built. I was 48, nursing my own ghosts, lost my partner to AIDS in 93, watched the world pretend we never loved. You spilled your coffee on my lap, apologized like it was the end of days, and we talked for 3 hours straight, about dreams deferred, the ache of loving men in a world that looks away. You said you wanted to build something real, not just survive. I believed you could. That night changed me, reminded me kindness isn't a transaction. I followed your trail loosely over the years. The agency job, the breakup. This isn't pity, it's faith. Take the house, the money, build that life. For both of us. With more than words. Leo. The words blurred, hot and unwelcome. I crumpled it, hurled it across the room. A stranger? No. A mirror, cracked and kind. Holding up the boy I'd buried under layers of sarcasm and safe distances. 15 years, and he'd carried that bus ride epiphany like a talisman. Me? I'd forgotten or willed myself to, because remembering meant admitting the loneliness wasn't new. It was etched in since the day my mom handed me off to the state at 12, whispering, "Be good, baby. Don't be like your dad." Evelyn Hargrove didn't waste time. By Monday, her lawyer's letter arrived. Contest of will. Undue influence suspected. Mr. Kane's presence at funeral indicative of manipulation. Undue influence? From a man 6 feet under? I laughed again, bitter, but it twisted into something sharper. Fear. Willow Creek wasn't Chicago. Here, blood trumped everything, and a gay drifter inheriting from a confirmed bachelor smelled like scandal. The town buzzed. Whispers at the diner, stares at the pump. My boss at the coffee shop, old Mrs. Delaney, slid my check with a pitying smile. Family first, Ezra. Always is. I fought back, scraping pennies for Harlan's retainer. Court dates blurred into a nightmare of depositions and dusty files. Evelyn's camp painted Leo as senile, me as a gold-digging opportunist who'd wormed in during his vulnerable final days. Vulnerable? The man had outlasted droughts, recessions, a plague that stole his love and left him hollow. I pored over his journals. Boxes delivered by Harlan, pages thick with sketches of Chicago skylines, pressed wildflowers from bus routes, entries about the boy with the green eyes who made me believe in tomorrows again. One passage gutted me, Ezra Kane. If I could rewind, I'd tell him he's enough. Not despite the hurt, but because of it. Love isn't fixed. It's fought for, inch by bloody inch. The betrayal hit hardest from within. Doubts crept in like fog off the fields. Had I manipulated without knowing? Was this windfall a curse, forcing me to claim a connection I wasn't ready for? Nights, I drive to the Victorian, its turrets looming like a dare. Inside, it was a time capsule. Faded quilts, books on Auden and Baldwin. A closet of wool suits smelling of pipe smoke and unspoken longing. In the attic, I found photos. Leo young, arm around a man with my same wary smile, both laughing at some forgotten joke. His partner gone too soon. And tucked in a drawer, a clipping from a Chicago paper. My name, a puff piece on up-and-coming creatives, circled in red. Climax came on a sweltering July afternoon in the county courthouse. Wood-paneled and airless. Fans stirring the heat like malice. Evelyn's lawyer, a slick weasel from Peoria, grilled me. "You attended a stranger's funeral for the free food, didn't you, Mr. Kane? Opportunistic. Calculating." The gallery murmured. Evelyn's husband, her kids, locals I'd nodded to at the market. I gripped the stand, sweat beading, the letter trembling in my lap. "He wasn't a stranger," I said, voice steady for the first time. "He was the man who saw me when I was invisible, who reminded me that love, real love, doesn't demand perfection. It just holds." Harlan called Evelyn to the stand next. She perched, chin high, but her eyes darted. "Guilt? Regret? Uncle Leo was family," she snapped when pressed about visits. "We checked on him." Harlan slid forward a log. "Calls twice a year, Christmas cards and signed." "Checked?" he echoed. "Or claimed." The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver hair and sharper gaze, leaned in. "Ms. Hargrove, your uncle's will was notarized, witnessed, clear as day. No coerción. Just clarity. She broke then, not with sobs, but a whisper that carried. He never forgave us. For Dad walking out after the funeral. For pretending he didn't grieve like the rest of us. Her partner, our losses, she meant the ones we buried under straight-laced lives. The room held its breath, rain pattering the windows like hesitant applause. Evelyn's gaze met mine. Not hate, but a mirror of my own fractures. Take it, she said finally, voice raw. He chose you. God knows why, but he did. The gavel fell. We won. Not with fireworks, but a quiet stamp. Will upheld. Outside, the storm broke. Sun slicing clouds like forgiveness. Evelyn paused by my truck, her pearls dull in the light. He talked about you once. Said you had his heart's fire. She handed me a keychain Leo's, engraved with a bus route number. Don't waste it, Ezra. I didn't. The money paid debts, bought time. The house? I fixed it slow. Ripped out rot, painted walls seafoam green, turned the attic into a studio. No gold rush. I started a community center. Second chances. For kids like me, foster rejects, outcasts loving who they loved in a world that sometimes forgot. Workshops on art, writing, the messy grace of being human. Willow Creek grumbled at first. That gay boy's fancy. But kids came, spilling stories like coffee on laps, and slowly, the town softened. Evelyn visits now, Sundays mostly, with pie and apologies wrapped in small talk. We're not friends, not kin, but threads in Leo's weave. Last week, a boy named Riley, 17, green eyes like mine, shared his first poem. We ride the bus of broken things, but the seats hold. I teared up, thinking of Leo's hand on my shoulder that long ago night, steady as dawn. He left me everything, not bricks or bills, but permission. To grieve, to love without ledger, to build from ashes. In America, where dreams die loud and rise quiet, that's the real inheritance. And damn if it doesn't feel like home.